Greetings once again. It's a pleasure to be back and it's a pleasure to be doing this video and sharing some insights. So last week I had a conversation with one of the pharmacy students who is in their final year of pharmacy school. And in this part of their life, in terms of academic journey, we understand that you've done all your studies in the different modules and you're getting to the point where you're making a choice on which research project do you want to pursue, why do you want to pursue it, and how do you actually execute on it. And I would say one of the key issues that I've been contending with over time, and I've had conversation with a couple of people in different facets, we do a lot of research in our universities that has so much potential and so much value, but ultimately the question is how do we translate it into impacting the ecosystem where we're going to get that research into the market, into actually useful value in terms of addressing a problem or creating new information that can help somebody address a problem in one end or the other. And that is a key conversation to have. But that is not the context of this conversation today. The context of this conversation at the moment is about determining how do I make the right choice on which project to pursue and which one not to. And in this context, this student has an interest in quality testing in terms of the quality analysis, pharmaceutical analysis of products and everything. And therefore then there's a question, okay, this is where you want to get to. And when you look at it from a grander scope, one of the key things that I would say is you already know you have an interest in quality analysis of products, and that is the key area that you're keen to. So that is pharmaceutical analysis. Ultimately, the provision is more on the industrial side of things, and it can be in industrial in the sense that you're working for a pharmaceutical company, a quality control lab, or whether you're working in most of these government regulatory agencies where you have to establish and do the post-market surveillance of products that are available in the market. When you're in school, when you look at the Kenyan ecosystem, and I think that is a key piece to start from, the Kenyan ecosystem quality analysis happens within the pharmaceutical companies that meet the quality standards on their own before they release products into the market. So that is a starting point. But when you're doing it as your research project in school, chances are nobody wants to understand that at the market level. Therefore, then the pharmaceutical companies will not be ideal partners and ideal allies to work with in this context. But from a Kenyan context, when you engage with the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, you engage with National Quality Control Lab, Mission for Essential Drug Supplies and all, they have an interest through their labs, including DARU, which does some of pharmaceutical research analysis. So they have an interest in understanding what is the quality of products in the market, what are the risks and what are the potential that is there. And I would say that is the easiest point to start from establishing these are the proper organizations that I can engage with and can work with. That's number one. Number two, when you're making a choice on your drug analysis, you need to ask yourself, what are the main problems that we're dealing with in the market at the moment, and where are those problems? And that is looking at saying, these are the products that have been having a lot of issues and a lot of complaints, and a lot of concerns around their quality nature, quality standards, and quality of products that are being circulated in the market. At the current moment, I would say there's a lot of conversation, a lot of buzz around weight loss management products and all these alternative weight management products. So that is a key area to look at. Number two, you have to look at the cancers, and there's a lot of conversations around cancer medications and cancer problems, and therefore then you need to understand and say, okay, and anti-cancers, we have all these different categories and classes of them. Which ones are the most used, and actually you can kind of, I would say, kind of get down to stratify that data and establish that in the anti-cancer bucket of products and anti-cancer group of classification, which are the most critical cancers that are affecting lives, majority. And in that case, you can start with cervical cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, gastric cancer, and all that. And you've already established the high-risk cancers. From the high-risk cancer, you can look at it and say, which are the medicines that are being used in their management? We will always have the small molecules, the chemical compounds, but also we'll have the biological molecules and all that. In the Kenyan landscape, analysis for biological therapies is very difficult and very expensive. Most likely you will not be able to get the money, but the small molecules is relatively doable and manageable because they're relatively affordable. So then you can now stratify and say, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to work on my pharmaceutical analysis of chemical compounds used in anti-cancer for management of maybe, let's say, for example, breast cancer, brain tumors, whatever it is. You already identified the molecules that you want to identify. Then go through the public literature, because when you're doing your research project, there's always the literature review part. Establish, okay, have there been reports about quality issues with such kind of anti-cancers that you've identified or not? And if it is, what is the magnitude of that problem? And then three, go to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board website and list and say, if I'm looking at, for example, paclitaxel, how many varieties of paclitaxel have been registered in Kenya? Because the registered products list is already available in the public domain, so you can establish that. Then using that information, you can now make the first inquiry, market inquiry, and engaging with the regulators and saying, As the Pharmacy and Poison Board, we've seen these XYZ reports that have been around quality of anti-cancer products or quality of weight loss management products like semaglutides and all that. And therefore, I would want to do an analysis of some of the samples in the market to help generate information and insights that can inform you either a market regulatory action or can help us establish whether there's really a problem or not a problem in that case with a focus on that medicine. So that is the starting point. If you get to engage with the respective institution that have mentioned Mission for Essential Drug Supply, they have a research component of their work, so they'll be able to engage. National Quality Control Lab, we have the Pharmacy and Poison Board. You are already in the journey of doing a research that is valuable to the ecosystem, but also is something that is addressing a key need that exists in the market. Once you've established that rationale and that clarity in terms of whether there's interest and appetite for it, it's about looking at the specific nuances. What would it take to do that research? How would you go about it? And that is where you get to the research method determination. And I would say quality analysis, the research methods are already established. There's already pharmacopoeia standards of what needs to be done in analysis. But the critical piece is knowing, if I'm going to analyze these products, how much will the samples cost? And how many samples do I want? For example, if it's anti-cancers, let's say, for example, paclitaxel, you'll find in the Kenyan country, as in Kenya as a country, the moment we have, I would say, between 10 to 37 products registered within that range. And that is including even the different strengths of the same product. So you'll find paclitaxel, we have 100, we have 200, we have 400 milligrams, whatever it is. And those different variations of strength would also be considered as different products. So when you get to that level, you've already known how many some products are registered, which companies are dealing with them. You can make a request for the sample from each of those companies, or you can do mystery shopping in the market depending on how you want to go about it. Then go to the analysis. How much would it cost to do the analysis through the pharmacopoeia standards? Would you be able maybe just to pay the research labs to do the analysis, or would they give you a chance to work as an intern in doing the analysis with them and getting to understand what are the key parameters that you're looking at based on the pharmacopoeia standards? Once you finish that analysis, you have some information to publish. But making a choice is determining where is the problem, how can you solve it, and what does it take to solve it, and who are the players. And the reason as to why I mentioned some of the key players that you need to have a conversation with when you're looking at quality analysis is because you're studying not just to study and leave it at a study level. You're looking at applicability of the findings of your work, but most importantly, the next phase of your professional career and how you want to pursue it in the next level. And that is a very important thing. And I would say most times when we're in our school, doing our degrees and all that, we rarely think about the next phase of our careers, the next phase of our academic and professional journeys, and therefore we miss out a lot in terms of making the right choice on what projects to do. And how is that important? I would give you a case example of what worked in my life. When I was doing my undergraduate pharmacy education, one of the key things that I kept contending with is how do we make our pharmaceutical industry grow and actually the pharmaceutical sector in Kenya to grow? It was always driven by the professionals. And therefore, the question that I was asking is our quality, the quality of education meeting the standards? And if not, what are the inflection points that we could do? And at that point, I came up with my component, my research project on assessing pharmacy education within the country and within my university specifically. In that assessment, it formed some of the quality improvement processes within the university. But most importantly, it gave me access to the international organization FIP. It gave me access to the Pharmacy and Poison Board through the Pharmacy Practice Division, who are willing to have a conversation and establish and understand what are the key challenges, what are the opportunities for improvement, how do we make these recommendations come to light. And I would say for the work that we're doing with African Pharmaceutical Network, it is a build up on those learnings and those opportunities that you can say there is a gap in this component, and therefore we can bring a solution in this way that opens up possibilities for some of our young professionals to explore careers that they would not have the opportunity to explore by the virtue of not having that kind of training and that component of education in the undergraduate. So when you're making a choice on doing a quality analysis, you're already clear on what you want to get into, that is the quality analysis side. You're establishing the quality of a product, their pharmacopoeia standards. Choose the class of products to look at, depending on the problems that are existing in the market at the moment. Everybody is using all these other varieties of products, including cosmetics, by the way. When you look at the cosmetics and all the challenges that we're having with bleaching, skin lightening, whatever it is you can call it. All these are issues around quality and the components of those products. Can you choose that? Can you talk to the regulators and the industry experts who are specializing in those analyses? Can you work with them and do the analysis with them? And most importantly, factor the cost. And if you can have a conversation with your dean at the School of Pharmacy, wherever you're studying, Have a conversation to help them see if they can help you resource in buying the samples, the mystery shopping and all. You will contribute to public health data and information that the regulator needs to make informed market decisions and actions. But on the end, you're building relationships to help you propel your career in a line of interest that you have, and therefore it opens possibilities for you. I hope this has been valuable for you, and if you enjoy it, please do share with your colleagues. Subscribe to the channel. Let's grow and build each other together as we are promoting and advancing the growth of the pharmaceutical industry in Africa. Thank you and have a good one.